in a community of real-world problem solving. And what we are here today is kind of like to educate you and inform you and let the students do that on how the process is for them to do problem solving in a real-world environment, coming up with projects that infuse things that are going on in the community and use the technology to make that happen. My name is Debbie Lamb, and I'm an East facilitator at HAR-BER High, transferring to the School of Innovation here, but I've been here for 10 years. And we'll start with introducing the facilitators, and then the students can say where their names are, where they're from.
I'm Nicole Pena, and I am the Hellstern Middle School East facilitator over here.
And I'm Bill Mills, and I'm at Central Junior High.
Okay, Kaylee?
I'm Kaylee Smith, and I'm a student at HAR-BER High.
I'm Bethany Ledbetter, and I'm a student at HAR-BER High.
I'm Sarah Strickland, and I'm also at HAR-BER.
Luke Ganning from HAR-BER High.
Edgar Malcha. I'm at HAR-BER High School too.
I'm Carson Sanders at Hellstern Middle School.
I'm Jansen Sanders at Hellstern Middle School.
I'm Isabella Cuera from Central Junior High.
I'm Yasmin Kane from Central Junior High.
So you have a panel of students today, so you're going to get to hear from them and do Q&A, and we're going to help ask questions too, but we want to know why you're here and what you hope to get out of this session. So if we could start from over here. And who you are, where you're from, and what you'd like to get out of the session.
I'm Sarah Wilson, and I teach math at Fulbright Junior High in Bentonville, and we do a lot of project-based learning, but I want to get our projects more intertwined with our community in Bentonville, so that's my goal.
I'm Sarah Reeves. I'm an assistant principal over at J.O. Kelly, and I was just curious, so I picked this one.
I'm Jenny Fox. I'm from Bentonville West High School, the new high school opening up this fall, and I teach medical classes and would just like to know how to do more projects that might get kids involved with the community and real life learning.
I'm April Coates from Northside High School in Fort Smith. I just finished my first year as an East facilitator there, and we're kind of revamping the program, so I kind of wanted to get an idea of how you guys have tied into the community.
I'm Mariah Santiago. I'm a food corps service member at George Elementary. So we do gardening and nutrition classes at our community garden. So I want to learn how to get involved with the community and with other students at other schools.
I'm Cindy Flores. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Jones Elementary, and I teach everything. And the reason why I signed up for this class was that I wanted to see students using critical thinking. I want to find ways to motivate my students to be deeper thinkers and engage them in real world projects.
And I'm Mindy Hader. I'm over at J.O. Kelly, and we're just moving forward in our students leading the way in their thinking and in their learning, and so we want to hear from students.
I'm Lori Canada. I work for the East Initiative in Little Rock, and I'm here to support East and help spread the word of the good things that our kids are doing. Because yes, even though I'm in Little Rock, there are kids too.
I'm Jeremy Riddle. I teach math at Fulbright Junior High in Bentonville, and I'm just interested to see what you guys are interested in. Kind of moved from double to single block classes, and it seems like there's less time to get things done, and so I want to kind of see some examples and hopefully get some good ideas.
Well, we're here and very excited that you're here today, and it's kind of going to be just like a lot of Q&A and just letting them share. The one thing that I would like to share with you is a couple of things that East is and it's not, or how we kind of get things into a deeper level of thinking. The 3 things that we try to avoid, not necessarily avoid, but don't let it stop there, is fundraising, awareness, and collections. And a lot of times students will come in and that's where they want to start, but we try to get them to expand their projects other than those things. Some of the focus, we really focus on the concepts of communication skills, working on improving our communication skills, collaborating with community partners, which many of you are here to hear about some of theirs, working in teams. What I think is really cool is the opportunities to work across school districts and across states on projects. I think before I was in East, when you were in school, we always thought about competitions. Well, here we don't compete necessarily with each other. We work together to solve problems and make our communities a better place to live. So problem solving is a huge part. We try to figure out things that they're interested in and things that issues in their community or that they want to work on to solve problems, and then they have problems probably throughout the entire way. And it's not easy and it's not perfect, and there is a lot of things that they may start with one idea and it changes throughout.
And I think that's a big thing that we focus on at the beginning of the year. East has provided us with a lot of, well, for one, just posters kind of helping the kids remember things like, this is messy. This is not, okay, we're going to set up a science experiment and I'm going to give you all these things and then, voila, this is what you should come up with at the end. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And they're like, Miss Pena, what do I do now? And I'm like, you know, it's yours. I don't know. And so we have to remind them, like, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to step backwards. You're going to have to step forward. You're going to have to maybe step to the side every once in a while and look at it and check on it. The other thing is that it's not, sometimes you just got to scrap the whole thing. It happens. There's so many things that go into them learning on their own that you have to be able to just kind of let go a little and say, okay, you know, you're just going to have to deal with what's happened and you're going to have to figure out how to fix it, or maybe not to. You know?
So in the multiple conversations we had in preparation for today, a couple of major things came up. First of all, focus tends to be on the project, at least from people outside of the East room or the East process. Focus tends to be on the project. And that's not necessarily reality. We try to focus on the process. So the project is important. Please don't misunderstand that. It is important. That's what gives shape to things. But the process of learning and how each student engages in that should be the real focus. And due to that, I think, and this also came up, so the second thing that came up in conversation, is that it shouldn't be a focus on the product either. I think a lot of people mistake product-based education or learning for project-based education and learning. And I think every one of these students will tell you that if you're focused just on the product, you're in trouble. All of them have dealt with failures, successes, but I'll just kind of from the, would you say that you've had more failure or more success?
More fails.
All right. And which do you learn more from?
Fails.
So we try to emphasize not fearing failure. If you're not pushing yourself, then you're not learning anything. So.
And what you'll see is each of us have a different approach to like the way we do things as facilitating. But what's very different, like we've worked on projects from cross districts, and it's great because that's how I got to know them. What I loved about it was the fact that all of us have got to be, we're friends, we're co-facilitators, we care about the community and we care about educating kids. The competition leaves because if you're focused on the right things. And so we are here today, and when he was talking about the community, when a lot of your community partners, they want a finished product, but they have to understand that these are students, this is their learning process, and it's not like hiring someone to give them, and we don't get money from it. That's not the way we do it. So they have to understand that. But today we're here to hear from them, and so we're going to kind of open it up, if that's okay with you guys, about just letting them share about what project they've been on and what they've done, maybe some problems they've encountered. So let them start with maybe just what are the projects that you guys have been working on? Kaylee, why don't you start?
I'm the project manager of Drink Green.
What is it? Tell us what it is.
Like explain your project.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I was a little confused on what you meant. Okay, Drink Green is basically recycling, upcycling, We do a lot of things. We recycle twice a week. We have a garden. We have a garden established at our school. We are basically trying to bring green initiative into the school and get students involved with it.
So what problem are you trying to address?
Problems we're trying to address.
We had no green, I mean, there was nothing
No.
recycled.
A problem was at the beginning of the year when I first got here was there was no recycling established. There was a grant in place for it, but there was no system for it. And so basically me and my team had to figure it out, but there was a lot of communication problems and that came into place. And I had the previous project manager quit on us. So I kind of took over as a sophomore and figured out how to establish it and get people to communicate. And so that was something I encountered this past year.
I'm working on a project called HIPS, which is an acronym for Hiding in Plain Sight. And the problem I'm trying to solve is the lack of education and concern for the growing crime rate of human trafficking in Arkansas.
Luke and I are on safe driving. This year has been kind of crazy. We've done a lot of stuff. We kind of focus on, we've done increasing seatbelt usage throughout the schools. We did that through our Seatbelt Save Challenge with the National Organizations for Youth Safety. And it was actually a competition and we actually won. So we got a $1,500 grant from that one. We had a mock accident in our parking lot. I don't know if you guys saw it on the news or anything, but we had 2 cars staged, and we had a actress who was actually in our school, play a dead body, and so I think that was kind of cool for the students to see. But I think a lot of our problems is, Luke and I are in different class periods. Our 4 other team members are in different class periods, so just communication and I think getting everything done, and people knowing what they need to do and who's doing what and what's been done so it doesn't get done twice was difficult for us. So I think we used Google Classroom, which was really helpful for us. We had a Google Classroom with all of us in it, and we would post, say hey, when can you meet? I did this, will you guys do this? And so I think that was a great way of overcoming the communication problem.
Okay.
I was on the computer upcycling project. One of our previous projects had left a bunch of old computers lying around, some of them broken, some of them working. And we figured that a lot of people don't have computers, so we could try and give them back to the community by fixing them up. We were one of the larger projects, so we had a lot of issues with communication, like people who got an email every time we sent something still somehow never managed to see it. So we tried setting up a group message and stuff, and it kind of worked, but yeah. It went good though. We managed to get 4 computers donated to people in the community. Yeah.
Well, me and Jansen have been working on a project called Hard Hits, and we are trying to implement football sensors, like concussion sensors, into the helmets of HAR-BER and Springdale high schools to detect and help them be safe from second impact syndrome. And that is where you receive a second concussion before your first concussion is healed. And most of these kids will die or be severely paralyzed for life. So it's a really pretty scary thing.
And how we chose our project was that I was on a project before that at the beginning we always talk about brainstorming projects and then you pick your project. And I picked the project and it wasn't really working out and I didn't have a love for it. And so I went up to Miss Pena and I told her, I hate my project. It's not going anywhere. And I just want to change. And she said, well, what do you want to do? And the first thing that came to mind was football. Me and Carson both play football and we're passionate about that. So I started researching and that's how our project went.
Me and Ms. Kane are managers of the thrift store that we have at Central Junior High. At the beginning, I didn't want to be at East. I didn't sign up for it, so I was like, why am I in this class? But after a while, because at first, honestly, I thought Mr. Mills was weird. He doesn't call himself a teacher. So me and her kind of bonded with him, and so
At first, he put us in different projects, like he made us learn about the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank or like the tiny house project, stuff like that. But that's not really what we wanted to do. So at the beginning, we studied poverty for 4 months and we learned many things about it. I feel like that kind of helped us have like a mindset of what type of way we want to go with this project. So then after that, we kind of told him different ideas, and we were always like, Mr. Mills, what do we do? He's like, I can't tell you anything. You guys are supposed to do it yourself. So it's basically student-directed learning. That's what he tells us all the time. So we talked to the principals and the counselors, and we kind of got in touch with them, and we thought we should do something helping families in need here at Central. So we did the thrift store. Yes, so it's kind of, I don't know what to call a project. I guess you can consider it the Central East Warrior Families, right? Yeah, okay. So the thrift store, our principal, Dr. Greep, he goes on Thursdays, I believe, to go to the, what is it called? The what? The United Way warehouse, and he picks up items that are like returned, and so then he brings them to the school. And then we have like, it used to be the old lunch detention room, so we put like shelves in there, and we had another class that helped us with the project, but some of the troubles that we had was no communication, or they did something wrong. It was a mess, or they did something wrong, so we cut them out. And so the thrift store, the system, how it works is we're not supposed to know who it is. It's anonymous. We don't want people feeling like, oh, the students know, so they're going to bully my kid. So we didn't want that to happen. And so Dr. Greep talked to the parents or the family, and they gave him a list of what they needed. So snack packs with the Samaritan Center, we got those. And we also had like shampoo, toothpaste, like house necessities that basically everyone needs. So we got the order, we put them in boxes, and then we sent them to the office, and they picked them up. We don't know who it is. But some problems that we had with that system was sometimes we actually found out who the parents were, or our principal didn't have time, so I would have to go talk to the parents, and I would have to translate if they were Spanish speaking families. So then after a while, we were like, this we can't do this anymore. So we talked to the principal, and so we kind of gave it to like the secretaries, so they like a folder, and then we have like a desk area where we have like clothes if they need clothes, or if we need certain items that we don't have, but we can send them. Like we put in the Women's Helping Hands here at HAR-BER, so they could come over here so they can get extra help that we can't give them. But yeah. Oh. Well, I'm on the Bright Futures board. I'm just saying it's gonna expand here at Springdale. And what I do is we talk with different community partners. We had a Bright Futures breakfast talking about what this whole big community project was. So we talked to many like 270 community partners. It was kind of challenging for us because we're only students, like 14-year-olds, so we don't really know how to talk with adults. But I feel like East has taught us to be able to be confident in what we talk about and not just like be scared to talk to adults. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't know about you guys, but I always look at the kids and how they can just present their projects to everyone and think, that's a win. The fact that they've gone through these projects and all these things, the fact that their soft skills has gotten to the point that when I say, you're going to go talk to a bunch of teachers, they go, okay. Like, no qualms. They just do it. And I think that that's always what comes out of the project isn't always the project. It's this. So.
It's learning to speak to adults with confidence, and I think you see some of that. Some of the problems that the students encounter, you've heard them say communication, real-life contact. They've got to go out and make those. We don't make those contacts for them. Sometimes we may, behind the scenes, kind of like start it and then say, get them going. But we facilitate that, but we don't do the projects for them. We may help them make that initial contact and say, would you mind speaking to students, but then they take off and go with it.
Well, and I would say that we do, it's more of a heads up. So if you have a community partner, like in this case, I knew they were going to have to work pretty closely with a couple of different community partners, and so I made contact with them just to say, okay, we're going to have students contact you. Here's why they're contacting you. If you need clarification, contact me, but let's work on building these students together. And thankfully, that's really the only communication I had to make at the onset. Not all community partners are that skilled at working with students. Some do have a tendency to focus more on the product than on student growth. And sometimes I think you can grow the community partner, and sometimes you can't. So, as Ms. Lamb said, we all do this differently. I vet my community partners pretty early on, rather than allowing, and we were a first-year program this year, so most of my students had no experience with that. I thought it was important to vet my community partners first. In a case like at HAR-BER, where they've had an ongoing program for, what, 10 years?
Yeah. 11, actually.
They've got some community relationships that have already been built, and so I don't think there needed to be as much structural work on the front end.
And each of us do a little bit different. Like in the beginning of the year, I did an interest inventory. What are their interests? What careers do they want to go into? What are their passions? And then we started like the process of brainstorming. We did something for the first time this year. We had a community night, and that was in the beginning. And were any of y'all involved in the planning of that?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
What we did was we contacted community partners and we had them come in one night, and all the students from East, they had to attend this event, and the community partners had booths set up in the rotunda, and they would browse the booths, and the community partners would present in the seminar room, and all the students would have to watch, and then they would go talk to the community partners, and they had, like a little worksheet they had to fill out, so they went and talked to the community partners to actually initiate conversation with them and see what they're all about and see if that is someone that they wanted to work with. And then, they got all their contact information, and from there they had, a starting point where it wasn't just, hey, go find a community partner. It's here are, 10, I think we had maybe 11, it was 11 or 12 come, and here's a starting point. Here are some people that we've already reached out to, and they're already willing to help us. And so it was just a great way to put those new students into the community without having them have to take the first step themselves.
And it wasn't my planning it. I mean, they planned it, organized it, and went with it. What we just started thinking about is they had all these lists of people, and we thought, how do you get them to know about East? It was a way to promote our program, but as well as to reach out and say, tell us some of the problems you're having, and let students hear some of the problems and see if they possibly would like to work with them. So I don't know about you guys. Yeah.
When we started at the beginning of the year, and I think Jansen or Carson now, I don't know which one just said it, and it's not because I can't tell them apart. I just start, mine are a little younger, 11. They come into me, when they're 11 years old, so it's a little different. But I just say, okay, what are we going to fix? And I call it Fix It. And we just write Fix It on the board, and we start putting up things that they want to fix. And sometimes it's hunger in Ethiopia, and sometimes it's I don't like the lockers, And then we go through those and narrow down, well, what can we actually fix out of these things? What do you think you can fix? What are you actually passionate about? We actually had a project that actually took place in India this year. I don't always smash the ones that are across the nation or across the country, because you never know, that might be what they're really passionate about. And so it's really taking into account their passion and what they really, if they really want to do it, they're going to do it. If they don't want to do it, they're going to come to me and go, I hate my project. And that happens more often than not.
And then, so a lot of times questions that have been asked of me, and as they ask, when is the project over? I don't know. What do you guys think? When is a project over?
What are you asking?
Whoever wants to.
I mean, a project can't. It's hard for a project to be over, because if you're passionate about something and you're trying to fix a problem, it's hard to fix that you can never better. Like there's I mean in life, not just in projects or anything, it's hard to do something to the best of your abilities. You can always do something a little better or a little more awesome. And so like in our projects, that's what I feel like. Like there's no stopping point where a project can go and when it ends, because you can keep improving it and keep making things better.
Anybody else?
Of course, I took my words.
So, as you can see behind, I've got the planning process. This is just some things that we come up with, and sometimes it moves around. Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of go back to that. So I'm sure all of you students have an experience where somebody in your class said, okay, well, I'm done with my project. All right, so what do you think a student is actually communicating when he or she says that?
I think it's less of I'm done and more of I don't want to anymore. And like I'm
No passion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So why do you think that they're saying that rather than being honest with the facilitator or whomever?
I see it more as seniors are leaving this past year. Like they said, okay, this is my last thing I need to do. Like we have to make trifolds.
Okay.
So like this is my last thing I have to do, and then I'm done. I'm gone. Like I'm done with this project now. So I think they think it's the mentality that once they leave high school that they won't ever use the things that they've learned in East ever again, and that's not true.
So with like recycling or upcycling or safe driving or trying to deal with poverty in the community or even concussion syndrome, when do those issues end?
They don't.
So how are you feeling about the idea that you are not going to, quote, complete, unquote, your project?
I think it's less of not completing and more of, setting the roots down for someone else to continue it and pick it up. Like, us, we picked it up from somebody else. Safe driving's been going on for, I think, 3 years now. And, we didn't start it, but, the other people graduated. And I think just, like starting something new or expanding the project is just a start, and the people who come after you are just going to expand it even more. And so it's less of we haven't completed it, but we've done our part.
So this, even though it's been going on 2 or 3 years, what have you done different than the people before
A
you?
lot. Almost everything.
Okay. So is there learning even though the project existed the year before?
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, like what? Tell me what you learned.
Different software that we use,
Yeah.
different technologies that we use. We use Final Cut Pro, I think, for the first time or something. And then I've also added on a new part of Maya. And Maya is a game design thing. And I was having a small problem with our school not having a safe driving class or a little safe driving class. And then so everybody would have to go to the Northwest Arkansas Driving Academy. And Kim HAR-BER, who was one of our community partners that we reached out to, really wanted the class here at HAR-BER. And so, but the only thing was that we couldn't get a car to drive around the parking lot because insurance was really high. And they kind of ruined it a couple of years ago or something like that, some kids. And then, so I had the idea of using a game design and making a virtual reality game and having a simulator that was made to represent how to drive a car. But it was all with motions of the controls that you're using while driving the car. And so that was a new aspect of our safe driving team.
And we added Maya, we added Final Cut, we added SketchUp. We used SketchUp for a couple things throughout the year, to kind of map out what we were going to do.
What were some of the opportunities you guys have had? Tell me about that.
We have gone to we went to the National Service Learning Conference in Minnesota, Minneapolis. So Luke and I went, and then one other guy went with us. That was really cool just to see, what other people are doing and to kind of like,
Nation.
yeah,
It was actually worldwide. A worldwide thing.
We made a friend from Qatar. It was really cool. But it was just really cool to see, to meet other people like that and see what they're doing and be inspired and stuff like that. But we did the conference, and we're actually a part of the Safer Teen Driving Coalition Board with the Arkansas Children's Hospital Injury Prevention Center. And so we got to go to a meeting down there in Little Rock, and that was really cool. I think, am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that was it.
So at the very beginning, when you were asked, or when we asked you what it was that you wanted to glean from this, there was a lot of community interaction and some critical thinking. I think it's probably obvious at this point that the critical thinking is not necessarily something that we put into the path of the students. It's something that naturally comes from them pursuing, as Sanders said, their passion. If you're passionate about something, you're going to go after it, and reality has a wonderful tendency to throw obstacles or opportunities, depending on how you want to spin that, at you, and you learn from those, especially if you're passionate. What happens if you're not passionate, students?
Quit. Fail.
So trying to find something about which the student is passionate, I would say, is really, really important. Because there's no way, I like to tell them that I'm really smart, but there's no way that I can foresee all of the problems that you're going to have. There's too many variables. If you have a real project and you're dealing with real community partners, you're going to have to critically think and problem solve these things, because no one can foresee all this. You're doing something that somebody, and they're all doing it, but I don't know that it's as obvious as with these two young men. They're doing something that nobody else has done. And so there's no way for anybody to be able to see in advance what they're going to have to deal with.
Well, and I think with them, they actually wrote a grant last year and received it. It was a Beyond the Bell grant from East, which they wrote it for $10,000. I did not help them. I thought it would be, a good writing experience. I really didn't expect us to get it as a first-year program, as 11-year-olds, but they wrote it, they wanted to turn it in, and they got it. There were a whole bunch of words that I didn't even know what meant. You want to tell them about some of the stuff that was in the grant?
Well, when we wrote the grant, we just tried to make everything, like, we were really trying to get the grant with, and as 11-year-olds, you don't really know what's wrong and what's right, really, if you're writing stuff. And so, like, our whole paper had, like, we were like, well, we need this, and it was like a whole serial code.
We didn't they didn't really understand it when we put. They wanted to know what we wanted, but they didn't. We put like serial codes.
They literally put every item that they could possibly want to make these sensors. And I still don't know what all the things they put in it mean or what it did, but they had figured out how to make the sensors, and they were going to make the sensors. That was our first stumbling block, because we thought money would fix it, right? So East calls us and says, "This is awesome. They know how to make these sensors?" And they go, "Oh, no, we just have an idea and we know how they can be made, but we've never made one." And so that was the first stumbling block, because then they said, "Okay, well, you only have, with that grant, you only have so many months to complete it." So we went backwards, and they said, "How about you just buy some sensors instead?" So we went from a $10,000 grant where they could make exactly what they wanted to a $4,300 grant where they could buy things and test them, which is still amazing. But they could have quit at that point, right? That wasn't what they wanted to do. But they purchased some different things. Unfortunately, there was many stumbling blocks with all these things. I think we counted one time, 13 problems happened by like September, something like that. And then the season ended before they could actually test. So then they had to come up with another solution, which we have a triplet, if you guys didn't notice. And this was their third solution, which was to build a head to test stuff on. So it was never easy. Is there anything you guys want to say about that? It never happens the way you think it's going to, I think. And that showed their passion for their project.
And like as all of them were saying, like if you're focused on the end product and what it's going to look like, I don't think you'll ever finish, because like me and Jansen always thought we were going to build sensors last year, and that's still our goal, but like that's like the light at the end of a tunnel. Like we're right in the middle and we're like, well, I can't see anything, but let's just shoot for it, let's go. And like we'll hit things, hit roadblocks, and you're like, man, can we even get it? And like those roadblocks seem to turn into like miracles somehow and like help us along. But if you're always focused on what you're gonna get, like if you're always like your main goal is gonna be like right here, I don't think you'll ever reach it, because it's just not there.
How many of you, just curiosity, because I know English, we always think about how are they incorporating English and math, then science. So how many of you all have written a paper to get something, or written a grant, or written something to get things, because they'll come in the class, Ms. Lamb, we need to order a 3D printer, and I'm like, do you have the money? Where are you going to get the money? How many of y'all have had to write something to get funding for anything? Or write a grant for something to get something?
Raise your hands higher so people can actually see.
Writing. How many of you had to research to find out things that you needed for this? Authentical, real research.
How many of you had to do some kind of math?
Oh, yeah. So, how many have had to do any sort of, like, is there any history involved in any of this along the way? Some of you all probably should, yeah, historical. So, science. How many of with science? So, the science things. Physics. Something. How many of you have done something that has helped you decide your career of interest? Okay, for example, give us some examples of your career.
So I want to go into the engineering background, so I thought of safe driving, and so the mechanicalism of my virtual reality simulator would kind of help me going into my career choice, which is marine engineering and working with controls and how to control a boat and stuff. So many different coding.
Okay, someone else?
So I want to go into IT and, well, computer upcycling, computers, IT. There isn't much more IT stuff than that, so.
Boys.
I don't know what I want to be yet.
Good answer.
Right. Okay. Bethany, about you.
Because of my project and working with human trafficking, I realized that I want to pursue a career with the FBI.
Who's your community partners?
FBI agents. I have about 2, and then I'm adding on another this summer I'll be working with.
What I think is funny is with these two, are you 13 yet?
Yep.
Okay. I'm losing them to him, so, but they will go and they'll put these things together, and then they're like, well, they're like, maybe I like engineering. I'm like, that's what you're doing right now. That's what you're doing. One of them's been doing Arduino training to figure out how to put circuits and things together, and that's been really helpful. And maybe they'll find out what they don't want to do. But something that they've both told me over and over is when I'm an adult and I know how to do stuff, I want to help kids with their projects and their things, because they have been shot down more times than not when they call the companies that are working on things like this, because they're already up to the level that these guys are working on. And when they explain, well, I need this, 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 and this to make my sensor, right? And they're like, yeah, you do. Well, will you tell me? No. Right? Because they're doing what other people are trying to do right now. And I think that kind of intimidates some adults, and that happens a lot of the times too. They come up with these ideas that other adults are doing. What they're doing are things that people that do on a daily basis, right? They have thrift stores for people to go to. Kids can do that. I mean, they can do it.
As a facilitator or teacher, when I first walked in, and I was so intimidated, I'll just be honest. There's a lot of technology in that class. Some I know a lot of, some I know zero about. It changes all the time. And I used to have the people that were, training the new teacher, they would say, well, you've got to know everything in your class. I remember them telling me, well, you've got to know everything. If not, you need to know everything. There is no way for us to know. There is zero way to know. And it was so, you have to kind of get over the fear that it's okay for them to know. You learn with them, and we help work together in learning.
So I'm going to tag there. My concern, when a facilitator steps into a classroom like that and demonstrates fear or intimidation, is that they're going to teach their students that same thing.
Yeah.
And their limitations as an educator are going to limit their students. And my students in some areas have surpassed me. They should, because they're passionate about it. It's not something about which I'm passionate. Their skill set is different than mine. So my job is to do the best I can to support them and help them with roadblocks. And if I can't continue to support them, or I need to find somebody who can.
And that's where we are. I would love for everybody to just say how many, like, who are some of the community partners each of you have worked with. I want you all to just hear some of these people that they have contacted.
Let's try to avoid first names, if that's
Yeah,
okay, but
just
like places that
businesses
they work.
and places. So who of y'all start?
Well, we worked with Illinois River Watershed. We've worked with Ozark Electrical Corps. We've worked with other East projects and intertying what we're doing, such as Wooten's Helping Hands, computer upcycling. We've worked with a lot of different people. I mean, I could just sit here and probably go on for 30 minutes, so I'm going to let other people talk as well.
Well, as you heard, I've worked with 2 FBI agents, and I'm adding on another. And then I've worked with a nonprofit based out of Little Rock. I've worked with a safe house and a victim of human trafficking. And I think there was one more. Oh, we've also worked with a lady who has her doctorate in research of human trafficking, and she's been able to help us like advocate for an educational program in our schools.
Okay, Luke, you might have to add on at the end, but we've worked with the police department, fire department, funeral homes, air evac. Oh gosh, there's so many. Luke, come on.
Northwest Arkansas
Driving Academy. There's more. Injury Prevention Center.
Collaborated with 10 other schools.
Yeah, 6 other schools, yeah. National, NYLC with the Project Ignition. There's a lot more. I've got a list. It's not in my head.
So we were able to work with Free Geek Arkansas. They're a local nonprofit, and they're one of the bigger e-waste distributors in this area of Arkansas. And the father of one of the other students in East, they actually tried to start something similar to this in the late 90s. So we had a chance to work with him to get parts and like advice on what to do, what to put on the computers, that sort of stuff.
We've worked with Rydell and Triax Tech. We've also worked with I1 Biometrics, and we've been in partnership with the U of A and some people there, and a few electrical engineers. We've also contacted a lot more. We've contacted 4 universities in New England area, that area. We've contacted businesses that have sensors and stuff like we want to build, and have contacted a lot more.
And ER doctors.
Yeah,
ER doctors and stuff like that.
We've worked with the Samaritan House and Bright Futures and United Way, plus we've contacted several businesses like banks and stuff like that.
So you can hear there's just a ton of them, and you think, well, how did you know all those people? We don't. There's no way for us to know. But we facilitate, and is there anyone out there? So that's part of the research process.
Well, there are 230 East programs nationwide. Bless you, thereabouts. So if we've not had contact with the community partner, there's a strong likelihood one of the other programs has. And so I think communication between East organizations or facilitators or students is really important.
I know a lot of times I use I'll have the kids call other East facilitators. If I know, because we all have different specialties in general, and these are all of our kids. I mean, I truly feel that way, that if I can't help them, that I know one of the other facilitators will help them. And there's always a teacher in the school or someone who knows, hey, you know what, I bet Mr. Mills knows about that. Why don't you email him and see what he says?
Go see Miss Pena. She's great with speech, helping. We've gone to each other's schools for the day.
We actually switched rooms for the day so she could help with things that I couldn't, and I could help her students with things.
So what I think is really cool when I came into this, it was like, has anybody worked across district? Has everybody worked across schools? Let's try new and different things. And what I love about a program such as this is that the competition leaves. It's about bettering the kids, bettering your community, problem solving. And we leave the competition to the sports. But when it comes to our programs, it's about making a difference in the lives of our kids. And I truly believe that. We're as opposites as you can get. But when it comes to our, you think?
I think we're like
Yeah. It was fun to even plan this. I'm more the organized, and I'm like, oh. And Mr. Mill's like, let's just do it this way, and it works this way. So let's do
I think
it
the other really neat thing about this is my school, Hellstern and HAR-BER, high school and middle school, have written grants together so that we could do things together because we are right next to each other, so that helps a lot. But our plan now with, he gets my kids when I'm done with them, and so there's no reason that we can't all continue to work together. And what that does for the kids is amazing. Like when I see the kids, they're like, well, can't we call Luke and ask him about that? And I'm like, yeah, sure, call Luke, And it's really nice to know that the kids are starting to trust each other too. So
my high school kids can go down to the middle school and to the junior high, and they're motivated by what they're seeing at the younger levels. And you think, well, how is it different? I don't know that it is a lot different.
The little kids are like chihuahuas, and the high school kids are like hound dogs. So they kind of, jump on each other and
help each other. When we go to conferences and things, we'll get the bus together. It's fun to be able to have the collaboration between schools.
All right, so we're getting close to running out of time. Do you have questions or things that you would like a little bit more clarification on? I ended the preposition if there are any English teachers. Are there any English teachers? Okay.
What questions do you all have?
Well, those of you that wanted to know about how to build community partnership or community clients, did you hear enough about that? Yes? No? I think all of us do it a little differently, but we also help one another. So that's usually, if I don't know, in their case, there was a couple of instances where they needed contact, and so I called her first because I knew that they had a pre-existing project, Wooten's Helping Hands, to get more.
Actually, we worked from Berryville to Springdale, and then we worked, was it Cedarville and Fayetteville for 4 school years ago?
Cedarville and Springdale High.
Okay,
Yeah.
4 school consortium grant. First time we'd ever heard it, we said, well, let's try it. Well, how can you collaborate? Many ways now. Technology, there's no boundaries, right? So Sky, we even did a training session with, it was from Dallas to...
Oh, there was the dude in Arizona.
Yeah. We had a training session set up with them in our seminar room where they could work together, and they actually would talk back and forth on training, and we separated in different rooms, and we made it works. At the beginning of the school year, what was really cool this past year, 13 East programs now got together. Yeah. And we all had different strengths, all of us do, and had our kids, 3 or 4 from each school, came together, and we did breakout sessions of kind of jump-starting our East programs.
We did kind of this for the East students, which was really fun. I taught photography, someone taught speech, and then at the end, they came together and kind of brainstormed what their ideas for the new year was and what they thought they could take from that, which was really nice. I think one thing you have to remember, and it really is something I drill into them, and I'm sure you guys do, is that they really do need to want to do their project. It's really not going to work otherwise. They don't need to be in it because their friends are in it. What usually happens if your friends are in it with you? There's 3 things I always tell them that can happen.
Fights.
Fights? What else? Fights.
Ruins
right?
friendships.
Usually fights, right? Okay. So it's just something that even at 11, 12, and 13 years old they've discovered.
So, Ms. Cuellar, you had to fire some students. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So, without mentioning names, why did you fire them?
Okay. Well, okay. So, Google Classroom is very helpful. But, okay, 3rd period, it was a group of 3 girls. So, whenever we couldn't get something done, they would get something done for us. Or, vice versa. But, I told Mr. Mills personally, I told him, I want to let these girls take over this project, the thrift store. I want them to realize how much work they have to put into it, because that's how much work we put into it. So we were like, and Mr. Mills was kind of, I was like, no, let them, give them like to the end of this like school year, and then maybe next year we can take over it. But then after like the first week, so the system with the boxes and everything, there was no boxes down there, or, I don't really know what the whole situation was. Mr. Mills knows it. So I came into school like regular day, first period is East for me. And so he was mad. He was very angry. So he told us what happened, and then I got mad because we put in so much work and it failed. Well, not really failed. It was like a very big roadblock.
Well, we let down a family.
We let down a family because the students from other periods found out who it was, because the secretaries called and they said, oh, this is family, their names, the student's name. So the whole anonymous plan, it backfired. So then I told Mr. Mills, I was like, what are we gonna do? Like this is really bad, And I felt really bad because I felt more bad for the family than what we did. Like the work that we put in, we're like, scratch that. It's about the families, about what they needed and everything that they thought they were gonna get. It didn't happen. So I told Mr. Mills, I was like, they have to go. Because I thought it was going to work, and, we were kind of excited because we wanted to do something else. But after a while, I was really mad. And so I told him, I was like, you know what, they're done. I'm not going to have them do this anymore. So I told him that on social media, like Snapchat, I saw them posting videos of them playing around in there. And every time I went in there was trash. There was a piece of gum on the shelf. It was just disgusting. And I was like, and our principal goes in there frequently, so I was like, he can't see that because he's depending on us to be, clean, respectful to the school. So I told him, I was like, cut them. They're out. So I took the whole day off from my classes to fix the whole system. So I missed all my periods, and then I did I basically redid the whole,
Is that because I made you?
No, because I wanted to. Because I felt like, even if that whole situation didn't happen, I felt like I was kind of on the edge. I was like, this isn't working out. This whole system isn't going smooth. And I knew it wouldn't be smooth, but it was, it was really rocky than it should be. So like I said, I took the the whole day off of school, and I fixed the whole thing. I did folders, and it was just
By yourself?
Kind of. No.
I'll let it ride.
Yeah, I kind of did it by myself. Because people saw that I was really mad in class, and so they're like, well, I'm willing to give up my second period to help you. And so some people were helping me, and they were doing boxes, and I think it was in the middle of the week, so we still had boxes to do, and we had to catch up on everything that they messed up. I don't want to be rude, but they messed it up really bad. And so I feel like for all students who are in East or any other classes, that you need to give them a chance. I gave them a chance to make everything work, because I know they were kind of we put them on the side. We're like, oh, we'll give you little things, but we were doing all the work. So whenever we gave them that, we still gave them a chance, and I was like, we can't give them another chance after this. So we redid we redid everything, and then ever since that, it's been okay. It's better than it was. Right?
What I hear from that is she owns it. She has pride in her project. She cares deeply about it. And I think when you talk to any of these students, that's what you hear. And that means that there's some success, there's learning going on. They're she's fixing it. Now, sometimes students may miss other classes because they're fixing things or working on projects. There's got to be some flexibility sometimes when you work on projects. If we go home and we're teachers at 4 o'clock, our hours are what? 8 to 4, whatever. Really.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with
8 in the morning till 4 in the morning? Is
yeah,
that
that's
what
about right. Yeah. 2 in the morning, they're calling you. Bye. But they own it. They have pride in what they're doing. They're excited about their experiences. They've decided new career paths or something they never want to do again. And so, I don't know.
It's responsibility. They're learning responsibility. They're learning so many things. these boys, I told them not to be, you don't want friends on your project. Try having twins on your project. That's not always the best, but they usually work through it. When they don't, I just separate them for a minute, and it'll be okay. But they go home, and I get phone calls from them and phone calls from their mom. Okay, help me settle this dispute, right? But it works. It does.
So, last time, anybody have any questions or clarification that you want?
There's two things I brought for y'all, if y'all don't have any, I don't want to catch y'all. But before you leave and walk out, I did, East has an open source software that is awesome. And like I said, we share, and I've talked to Mr. Doja this morning, it's okay to share. And then we also have, I made a grant list, because to me, here's one thing that I've learned. The more people that do things than you apply for them, we just have to get better at it, right? The kids do. So it raises the bar, and we like raising the bar. And so these are things that are out there for you guys. If you would like a copy of these, I would like for you to take them. And if y'all have any questions, I'm going to just make sure you get them before you leave.
I got a question. What's your favorite part about East for teachers and students?
For me, it's just kind of like we're a family. You know what I mean? Like you go into the East room after school, like everyone leaves at 4 o'clock. Like 4:05, you don't see a single person in the school. And then up in the East room, there's like 20 of us just, chilling, working on our projects, messing around at the same time while we're getting stuff done. So I think it's just really fun to have that. Like East is like a second home. So I really like that about it.
I like the freedom it gives me, the ability to not being told what to do, more doing what I want to do. I mean, it sounds kind of bad, but I like the ability to just do, what I kind of feel like doing that day. Like there's no restraints. Like sometimes you get classes and you know how to do this and they're giving you stuff and it's not usually bad because it's practice work almost, but like you could be like so far ahead, and in East you can do you can go at your own pace, you can go slow, fast, anything, and just get exactly what you want done, not what anybody else wants done, what you want to get done. And if you love a project, I've seen kids who come in who are horrible in their classes, and then they come into East and they'll sit down and work hard. But I've seen the opposite, straight A students, just the best, teachers' pets, all this stuff, and they come into East and they don't know what to do because they're always been given something. They're always like that test mind, like they need to study for a test. And when they come into East and there's nothing to give them, and there's no product or anything, then they're kind of like, what do I do? And then they end up dropping out usually.
I love how East is, we learn stuff from our failures. Miss Lamb said at the beginning of the year, something that I will always live by is that there are no bad ideas. They only lead to better ideas. So, East has taught me a lot about how to talk to adults and, especially how to answer the East phone. Oh my gosh, I was terrified my first day that phone rang and everyone was just staring at me to answer it.
Do I answer it?
No, you do not. We have to answer.
I think we forget that they never had house phones, so they don't really understand the hello. They know who's calling most of the time on their phone, so it's a whole new game for them when they have to answer a phone.
I think what I appreciate most is the fact that East is the one class that has actually prepared us for the real world. Other classes you'll learn how to study for college, but past that, we learn how to pick up the phone and call someone and ask for something, and we pick up we'll email people, and we actually talk to community partners face to face, and just being able to conduct yourself in a room with corporate adults. I think that's really important for our future, which helps a lot.
To build off of Sarah's first idea about her favorite part of East, it really is a home because we've all hit rough parts in our life, all of us have, but we've always turned to each other and we've always turned to Miss Lamb, and they've been great helpers to uplift you, and it's just whenever you walk into the East room, it really does just feel like home, and we spend more time there than we do actually at our home.
I do.
Anybody else?
What I enjoy most about East really is it's a class where you get to deal with real life situations. Not like other classes like English and math, yada yada. But East is you get to help families. I know some people are oh, I want to help the community, and they're but I don't know what classes to take for that. So East is an opportunity for students to be able to help like families like me. I've always wanted to help people in need, people that are in poverty, and East gave me that opportunity to be able to help them, and maybe later on I can use my skills that I've learned in East to whatever career that I want to choose, which I want to be a teacher, but I want to be a teacher that students depend on, or not depend on, but like if they need help, I can help them, and I know what community partners or what teachers, other influences can help me. So, yeah.
And I'll answer since you asked for facilitators as well. My background is primarily history, but I also did advanced mathematics like AP Calculus and that kind of thing. I thought that I wanted to be a college track teacher, and figured out after a few years doing that what I really am passionate about is giving students an opportunity. Students who really might not get a voice in other, let's say, more traditional avenues of education. This is an opportunity to let students shine, and I really appreciate that.
What I like about East is I believe that all about leadership is about being visionary thinkers, about thinking about the future. And I believe that we can't just assembly line kids. We've got to get them to use these tools. Now, these tools of math and science that they go to are important. But when you take East and you're able to apply these skill sets, and we're not into a way where they think about, okay, was there any English involved? Well, I just wrote a grant. They wrote a grant. I had a kid who missed homecoming assembly one year, and I got in trouble for that. But he was like, it was your brother. He was
that day.
I forgot about that. It was your brother. But they go, Miss Lamb, you can't, your kids you can't miss homecoming assembly. And it was his homecoming big day. And I said, but he had a grant, and I couldn't get him out of there to save my life. He was determined to get that grant written. And I think for them to have that pride in that, and to be able to take those skills and they come back to you, and I've had kids that literally a whisper 5 feet from me wouldn't talk, but yet go to East Conference and speak in front of 2,000 people. I've had 2 or 3 do that, and it's amazing by giving them those opportunities. So to get them to think visionary, and then there's no stopping them. They're like, we're going to go into the community, and they call you back and say, guess what? I'm still using East. How many of these kids come back, guys, in high school? All the time. They're like, they think I pay them or something.
They just show up, and we go down at lunch when we hang out in the East, so I have to go get them.
They don't stop coming.
No,
They
never.
You think you'll never see them again when they're seniors?
They even come to my room and help me. Her kids that graduated from her 3-4 years ago, I got their number in my phone, and they're like, Miss Pena, please call Jonathan. We don't know how to do this. And he's like, yeah, he comes and helps.
They used to get mad.
Yeah.
Mad at me because, Miss Lam, you're working on this. I'm like, you've got to learn how to problem solve, guys. You've got to work on this. And, at the time, they may not like it because it's, with me, I've never really had a feeder program in 10 years. I know we have a lot of them. This was supposed to be our first year. And so when I was starting, and you've never had a student all the way through 10th grade never learn this way. And they get in there, and it's like interrupting their world. It's changing things, and it's a fight. That first semester, they want out of your class and they want to run, and it's very, very you're not teaching me anything, and I'm like, oh yeah, we are in a very different way. But when they grasp a hold of the learning, it's magic. It's magic. Can you all
And I won't say much about my favorite part because I cry when I talk about it, and they know that. They make fun of me all the time. So I'm going to actually let them tell you what my favorite part is. Have you seen kids who don't learn or don't pay attention in any other class? Can you tell them about a kid? Do you know who I'm talking about? I know you do. Without using names. Tell them.
There's this kid, and he's a troublemaker in his classes. He doesn't make good grades. He doesn't pay attention. Every time he talks so much that his teachers just write him up every time he talks, and he's been expelled a few times. He's he's got it rough. But every time he comes into East, he's never, he never does any of the bad things that he does outside. And he actually works extremely hard, and he does what he's supposed to. He actually comes in, after school during his lunch period, and works, and it's really cool just to see how somebody who could be so cool,
Not interested in learning?
Yeah, not interested in learning outside of East, come into East and be totally transformed.
That's
into
my
a
favorite
kid.
part.
And
Whether it's these good kids that love to learn and push themselves all the time, or these kids who have never loved to learn, you give them a project that they're passionate about, and they want to do it, and they want to learn. And that's my favorite.
She said my favorite part too is when you say they're learning. I always tell them it's not about the grade, it's about what? Learning. And when they get it, then it's awesome. When
they get so excited.
They get so excited because they get where they go into classes wanting to learn instead of making a grade. So
Thank you very much for working through this with us.
If you all, that anyone would like some resources, I know I'm always about resources. Thanks, guys. You guys go. I gotta go.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.